Greetings, comrades, and welcome to How the Red Was Won. That's a podcast. It's this podcast. It's about organizing in the South, Texas fascism, and how to fight back. I'm your host, Jen Big Nasty, and just a quick reminder that if you like this project and you are able to support it financially, I would really appreciate that. It is about time for me to upgrade my equipment. I know I've been talking about it for a year, but it is time. The time has come. So big shout out to everyone who already does support me on Patreon. And if that's something that you would like to do, please do it. $5 a month goes a lot further than it sounds like it might. So today we are back with our returning champion, everyone's favorite guest. It's Comrade Pete, and ta-da! And he is here. We are finishing up ch3's work, Guerrilla Warfare. Chapters 1 and 2 are already out, so if you want to listen to things in order, you should probably go back and listen to those first. I don't think it really makes a huge difference, but this is chapter 3. It's the final chapter of the book. Hi, Pete.
Hey, do you remember when you thought we could do this in one episode? That was fun.
I know. We're coming. This is going to be like over 3 hours of this book.
It's worth every minute.
It is worth every minute, and it's obviously it's because we're talking about it and going over it and explaining what he says here, but it's also because we're having a little bit of fun too.
I think so. And honestly, I'll bring a little relevancy to things. A comrade of mine sent me something that I got to look into the accuracy, but something about liberals being polled about their willingness to take violent action for their political gains, and that number being higher than any seen in recent years. And if that's true, this type of education is going to be incredibly important when trying to organize those liberals into true political combat.
To be honest with you, in the same vein that I think that it was really helpful that Luigi Mangione is so attractive, I think a lot of people find Che to be a very physically attractive man, and unfortunately we are such a superficial society that having a sexy leader helps.
Sure doesn't hurt.
I mean, I even got the shirt, bro. I got the shirt.
Look at that stash. Oh, the man can wear a beret, I tell you.
That's right. Do you want to just fucking jump right into it? Yeah, well, so chapter 3, and again, with most things, we have chapters and then, little subsections throughout it, which I really, truly do appreciate it when authors do that. I'm trying to see how many there are. This one does have a lot. This is a
10.
long chapter.
10 total.
10. Okay, 10 subsections, and the chapter itself is titled Organization of the Guerrilla Front. And I'm not going to make the same joke I made on the last one.
Feel good. No, this is really this is the most FAQ section for me of the book. This is where it feels like they sat down and tried to think of what questions specifically people might have and tried their best to round out the education that can't be super specific, because as Che mentions over and over again, every situation is going to change and you're going to need to be adaptable, but this really tries to hit some of the major points. I think every subsection here is pretty mission critical.
Yes, and that's a good point you just made. When a second ago you were talking about liberal people being, I mean, honestly, it just means that they're starting to see what's happening around them and realizing that you can't just vote these things out.
It's a good step.
Yeah, it's a very first step of engagement. And so reading ththings like this, and I would also argue that State and Revolution is up there and something that people should start reading once they're getting radicalized. But again, it's important to remember, and as materialists, we understand this, but this is not a one-to-one. This book was written in what year was this written? Right, it was written right after I think the 60s, 1960 on the dot. So, the Cuban Revolution happened in the 1950s. This was written right afterwards. And same with, the Russian Revolution that happened in 1917. These are theories, ideas, and some stuff, when he's talking about the importance of having, dry socks and good boots. Obviously some of those are very relevant to any type of warfare, or really, any type of, having to be on your feet for a long time, even just, marching at a protest, or, it's important to think of those things. But our situation here is different than Cuba in the 1950s, and even our situation here in Austin is different than a rural part of Texas, which is going to be very different than New York City or like a rural part of Vermont. Conditions are different everywhere, and so these things have to be adapted to your current conditions.
Yeah, you made a great point. As materialists, this is something we should already be familiar with, and this is Jay just expecting us to already have that revolutionary understanding and then use it to take this history and get what we can out of it. It's like you said, it's not all one to one, but there's some really good stuff in here, and we can point out the stuff that may not fit anymore or may not be relevant to our locale here in Texas or wherever you
Mm-hmm.
might be. But ultimately, you'll see there's a lot of really good broad strokes. So diving in, subsection number one is supply. And we've talked about supply throughout this book. It's not a new topic, and nothing mentioned here is really new information, but it's meant to kind of hammer home. Think religious, education. The preacher says it, and make sure that it gets in your head because it's important. It's vital. This is
Mm-hmm.
that. This is like a preacher. Don't forget, work with the peasants, co-op gardens, farming, work with them in factories, help them do basic things around town so that when the time comes that you need something, you're not just asking without
Mm-hmm.
some kind of pretext of, I'm here for you. Thank you now for being there for me.
Yes, get to know your neighbors, your coworkers, all of that.
I
It's
mean,
all important.
they're going to be critical in helping you build the well-oiled functioning supply chain that you
Yes.
absolutely need in order to keep a guerrilla army functioning.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things Che mentions very important is to always pay your debts.
Mm.
You might not have the money, you might not have the collateral when you need something, and it's important that these people in these towns, villages, cities, whatever, know that if they help you, it's not going to be for nothing, and they're not being taken advantage of.
Right. I like that a lot.
It's critical.
I mean,
And then,
it's. Oh
go
no,
ahead.
go ahead.
No, please,
Uh,
please. I'm going too fast.
oh well, I was gonna say, like, it's well known that like Donald Trump doesn't pay his debts, and so like let's not be like that guy.
Right. Look at nation states like all over. Like the largest nation states have how much national debt that they owe to
Mm.
God knows who for God knows what. So yeah, don't be that even on a small scale. But yeah, gaining the confidence of the people is like huge kind of step one here because as you build your army and as you advance into enemy territory, this is going to be critical to keeping the foundation you build. You don't want to have to keep constantly looking behind you as you move forward. Uh,
Right.
then, one of the most common things talked about throughout this book, and one of my favorite topics, is shoes.
Shoes. Shoes.
Shoes couldn't be more important. Shoes and leather, like just leather work and shoes. If you're going to start doing anything more than, marching and patrolling, it should be setting up some kind of leather tannery so that you can make shoes and or repair them.
Repairing is so important too, especially because we live in such a throwaway society right now. People don't always go and get their shoes fixed when it is an option. I mean, a lot of stuff is just shitty plastic and can't be, but a good pair of boots can be fixed.
Well, the United States, especially, but most Western nations, litigious nations, have done a really good job of convincing people that they can't repair their things or it's illegal to repair their things. I mean, look at John Deere bullshit.
The right to repair, yes.
It's crazy. Like, we're literally told just buy something new. That's not how it works anymore, and that's fucking crazy.
Right. Or like with the John Deere stuff, because everything about those machines is considered proprietary, you can pay to have them repaired by a John Deere specialist. But it's not something you're even allowed. And if they find out that you, like, I don't know, replace the timing belt or something, like, you can get in trouble.
It's like, oh my god, I can't believe you had the nerve to try to maintain something and not waste.
Mm.
Wild. Wild.
And compare that with I'm gonna be super sidetracked today. When I was in Vietnam and we visited that chicken farm, something that they talked about is the provincial government, which is essentially like the state, right? offers like free classes on how to use and repair your equipment to all of the farmers, right? The families that work this land. And then when new machinery comes out, they have ways to help you pay for it, and again teach you how to use everything as well as repair these things yourself. Which is socialism's nice, isn't it?
Well, yeah, the only incentive to not do that is if you're playing games with bookkeeping and trying to fudge numbers. If you're
Right.
actually trying to have a productive economy and a productive agricultural sector, you want to
Mm-hmm.
be able to repair and reuse things.
Well, and it's like, is your agricultural sector's goal to feed people, or is it to make profit?
Bingo, bingo, bango, bongo. Okay, back to supply. So shoes, super important. Che also hammers home some food specifics, which I'm going to kind of gloss over because it's very Cuba specific. But it's important to understand what foods you have available, where you're fighting, how to preserve those foods, how to maintain those foods, and how to vary things up so that your troops are both being fed for subsistence and also getting something other than the same slop over and over and over again. It's kind of like
Slop.
having tobacco around, right? It's not necessary for their health, but it's necessary for their mental health. It keeps a
Mm-hmm.
soldier from going crazy.
Mm-hmm. He talks about salt too, right? Having salt.
And that's a lot about preservation, right? Being
Yeah.
able to keep like meats, jerkies, and
Oh, there it is.
things from
Salt
going
is one
bad.
of the essential supplies. When the force is near the sea and in contact with it, that's such a cool idea too, because Cuba's an island.
Yeah,
So you're able to just like literally like farm sea salt when you're over there. It's so cool.
incredible,
Yeah.
incredible. Yeah, and he really hits home the salt thing because it's a preservative.
Uh huh.
Your foods can be kept longer if salted the right way, and then obviously encased in whatever you need to keep it from going bad. So yeah, super critical, and that's something you could probably take anywhere. But he talks about like malanga, I think it was called, which is like a very specific food that's found in a mountainous region in Cuba, and it's like that's cool, man. I'm probably not going to find that tree out here. Um,
But I've been trying to learn so much more about like foraging and stuff like that lately, and when you learn about how when our cities were founded and they planted trees, they specifically only plant male trees so that you don't get like free fucking fruit from like downtown. Which not only is that evil, but it contributes to like more allergies because you just have this pollen in the air and it doesn't have anywhere to go. Learning more about foraging, and sometimes it's tough in places like Central Texas where like the environment seems to be trying to kill you at all times. But even things like, I mean, cactus is everywhere, and prickly pears are like such a good food. So we have pecan trees. You can eat dandelion. You can eat all parts of that plant, like stuff that you don't really think about. We look at them as like weeds or just like nonsense trees and stuff. But there is a lot of edible stuff. So when you're planning your guerrilla war, make sure you have some people around that understand foraging and like what you can just eat for free that grows around you.
Hell yeah, I would even go as far as to say add it to your curriculum of education and indoctrination. Have the youth learning that stuff because it's going to be pretty critical.
All right, putting that on our list. You got to tell the comrades though.
I'm on it.
A foraging class would be cool as hell. Honestly, that'd be
That would be
something we
fucking
could
rad.
do, especially like with our work with the homeless community. Like, fuck yeah. Okay, adding
Okay,
that to the agenda.
to the list. All right, next up on my list of notes here is about limiting the knowledge of safe houses and storage locations.
Mm.
Making sure that the people who know are not grouped together is very important. Not having 10 people in a group of 12 know the same information would be dangerous. But also making sure that 10 people overall don't know this. Doesn't need to be that many people to communicate to those others who need to know where they're going without blowing secret locations. Just
Yes.
just it seems like common sense, but it's something that you should really remember when setting these things up. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Also, keeping a safe distance from your military operations. Have your
Yes.
supply somewhere that's not going to go down with a base of operations.
Yeah. Don't tweet about it.
Yes, don't Foursquare while you're there and let them know your fucking location. Turn off your
I'm just gonna
location.
check in. I'm gonna check in real quick. A lot of
Selfie.
people don't do that anymore.
Thank. Well, now your phone does it automatically for you.
That's
all your other apps are like, oh, if you didn't turn off your location, we're just going to tell people where you snapped this picture. Uh, anyway, um, moving on. With these safe houses that are going to be further away, there's going to be some need for good transportation. And as we've learned earlier, mules are the best transportation animal. At least they were in Cuba. And I'm willing to bet that if we looked into it and we had access to mules, they'd probably still be one of the best. Um, and honestly, we talked about this a little bit in the previous podcast, but the idea of using like livestock as transportation versus cars and motorcycles and even like going back to bicycles, like this might still be relevant because you don't just want to jump in a Camry and make yourself a target in the middle of a guerrilla war.
Right. Well, and so okay, so like I've been a huge fan of like zombie movies and stuff forever. And so like things to think about in case of zombie apocalypse, like you're not going to have access to like gasoline anyway. So either you have to convert your vehicles to run on an alternative fuel source, or things like bicycles, especially if you still have access to like a generator or something where you have like an electric bike, stuff like that will come in very handy. I mean, I'm just gonna keep talking about dumb shit, but like Luigi's quote unquote supposedly escaped on a bike, right?
Mhm.
Because it doesn't have a license plate. It's not something you can just like. Obviously, it's slower than a car, but like when you're like running from the police or whatever, like you're gonna be so much more mobile on a donkey or or a bicycle than a Camry. Yeah.
Yeah, and they can carry a lot. Which, once you've gotten to that point of the necessity of an animal or an alternative, the mule can carry more than most animals. So,
Hell
good
yeah, I
to
want a
keep in mind.
donkey.
Me too. Give me
They're
that
so
ass.
cute. Give me that ass. Pete's quote. This is what I'm using for the clip right here.
Chef's kiss. Um, and that's pretty much that's this section. We can move on to section two here, civil organization.
Or yes.
I like this section a lot because it's easy to forget that you still need to have some kind of society functioning
Mm-hmm.
around this guerrilla war.
Yes.
People need to live. Not everybody's a combatant. We learned this earlier in the book. So Che breaks this down into two parts of civil organization: internal and external. Internal, I broke down into 4 bullet points that I found to be the most relevant. There's a lot in this, but I really picked out the need for peasants to create civil organizations that communicate with nearby areas and plant the seed of coming guerrilla warfare and future liberation.
Mm.
You need to have the people spreading the good word, so people aren't surprised when the revolution comes.
That's good. We talked about this, I think, in chapter 2, where I was talking about I was like walking around HEB and just thinking about all these people here are not revolutionaries, and they don't have to be. Like they just want to feed their kids. And so like you don't necessarily have to make those people read Marx or fully understand what's going on here, as long as they at least trust you not to be as bad as the way things currently are, right? Like the bar is very low. So as long as people don't think that you're an asshole, then they'll probably just stay out of the way, and that honestly that's best case scenario for the majority of the population.
Yeah, and I think as things get worse, we're gonna see it's a lot more what's the word I'm gonna look for here? It's a lot more effective for communists and more just left leaning than our centrist right leaning bullshit here. To be transparent with the people, right? Like they might not like what's coming, but if we're
Mm,
honest and we say, listen, it's gonna be hard, it's gonna hurt, it's gonna be this, it's gonna be that, but here's what we're doing. I think
mm-hmm.
that's going to go a long way in a world
Mm-hmm.
where lies get these people to a point where they're even willing to listen.
That's good.
I should write that
You
down.
should write that down. Get it tattooed.
So there you go. This leads into the next bullet actually perfectly, in my opinion, which is that all actions taken by the guerrilla army ought to be accompanied by necessary propaganda to explain those actions. And
Mm-hmm.
in doing so, again, we're doing what the enemy isn't. We're being honest with the people. We're being the people, not
We
above the
are
people.
the people.
And I think that
Yes.
goes a long way. And I think that's exactly what Jay's talking about here is don't just act for the people and expect them to get it and follow you. Let the people know what your actions are about. And hell, they might do more than follow you. They might just join you.
Yes. I love that.
Next up is one of my favorite topics that comes up a few times here. It's about roads, and I find this
Hmm.
fascinating when you think about different terrains that are going to be fought on, especially here in the United States, cities, towns, villages, middle of nowhere, what have you. Roads being a liability. Che goes as far as to say, take them out. Uh, get them out of the way because the enemy is going to use them. The enemy is going to try, and by the enemy, I mean a well-formed, well equipped, funded army is going to try to use things like tanks. And without roads,
Of
those tanks are
course.
a lot harder to use.
Yes. Reminder, read George Jackson.
Hell yeah.
Because he
Unless you got
addresses
tanks
a
to
lot
fight,
of this. Yeah.
unless you got tanks to go tank for tank, you can't fight it. You might as well take away their transportation.
Yes. And you know who's really good at doing that? Hamas.
Hey, we got some great videos on Twitter.
On how to
Uh,
take out a tank. Yep.
Hell yeah. By the
It can
way,
be done.
totally sidetrack here. It's my turn to go on a little sub rant
Yes,
here.
let's go.
My buddy, apparently, I'm not on TikTok, but my buddy is, and his algorithm has somehow gotten him into these videos that are like, they're like dance routines with like silly stuff and a song, but the song lyrics and the video are about how to steal and pilot an F-16 fighter jet. And apparently that's what's
Yes.
happening on TikTok now. Like it's
I gotta
cute.
find that.
Like it's adorable. I'll see if I can get the video and share it with you. It's
I
silly.
love it.
But
I think that
anyway,
is
that more
that's
of
a
that.
great people are doing stuff like that. I came across it was on Instagram. I came across a guy and just like an older white guy, older than us. And he was doing silly it's probably a TikTok account that gets cross post, right? But I found him on Instagram. He was doing like dances, like the viral dances, and then speaking over it Marxist theory. And I was like,
Fuck
this
yeah.
is the way. Yes.
Subversive education. Do it.
Yes, into it.
Love it. All right. And my last bullet for internal civil organization is healthcare and
Mm,
the vitality of healthcare in all your zones. And we're going to talk a little bit more about zones later. But there are a variety of situations that we've talked about throughout the book where you're going to have your factories and your industry, you're going to have your actual combat, you're going to have civilians, you're going to have supply, this, that, the other.
mm-hmm,
All of those areas need to have at least basic health care,
mm-hmm.
if not some more advanced health care like surgeons available, medicines that are needed beyond. I don't want to use it because it's so topical, but Tylenol. Um,
I knew you were about to say because we know what happens when you take time.
Yes. Well, luckily for Cuba, apparently they couldn't afford it, so they don't have any
Right.
autism to worry about.
Oh, he
In
did
case you were
talk about
wondering,
Cuba, didn't he?
in case you're wondering when this was recorded, it's the day after Trump claimed that Cuba couldn't afford Tylenol, so that's why there's no autism there. I'm so sorry, but
Oh,
that's not even a joke.
oh my god. It's
Cuba
so
is
bad.
autism free because they're too poor for Tylenol. Anywho,
I hate this timeline.
you know what? At least it's funny sometimes. Um, it's really not. Okay, let's move on to external civil organization.
Yes.
Honestly, y'all, and Che so much as says it, this is kind of more of the same, but you have to broaden what you're doing. So you want to establish wider reaching and broader speaking propaganda, organize funds more secretly. This is really about building from the ground up. And this is where these external and if you think about it, what this really means is the internal civil organizations are the ones that are kind of living in this everyday guerrilla situation, and the external are
Mm-hmm.
the ones that are going out and making things happen so that these internal organizations can then function properly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it talks about organizing funds in a more secretive way than the internals need to, because those funds are probably going to be greater and more essential going down the line. And then it talks about supply chain and how it's important for efficiency and for it to be limited to only a few trusted guerrillas. This kind of goes back to, again, what we were talking about in internal. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
don't tell everybody where everything is, because unfortunately, some people break And
Right.
it's not, this isn't a machismo movie where it's, oh, I can't believe that loser said something. We're human beings. We all have points. If you don't know something, you can't say something.
That's true. I like that.
Simple as that. Um, and then he talks about direct sabotage through coordination with Central Command being one of the jobs of civil organization, being the ones to go out and get that work done, but working with a Central Command that is part of this internal civil organization. So it's basically think of your branches of government, but in a much more simplified and efficient way than what we do here in the U.S. or most Western nations.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I've got for civil organization, but it's so critical. Like
That's good.
this is really explaining how you this is like day to day, like if
Mm-hmm.
anybody wonders like, well, what's the revolution going to be like? Well, hopefully this will help you make it whatever you want it to be like.
Mm-hmm. Hell yeah. All right, section 3. I'm excited about this. Uh, as the token woman, oftentimes. Section 3 is the role of the woman, and I really like. He starts out here by being like, women are just as competent at being soldiers as the men are. Like he's like, don't get me wrong, bitches are tough, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
He's like, yes, generally speaking, women are going to be somewhat smaller and maybe weaker than the average man, but that doesn't mean that she can't still perform just as competently in combat situations, which I gotta say, I appreciate it, especially for 1960. That's woke as fuck.
Oh, yeah.
But then, yeah, he says obviously women combatants are in a minority, but that like that's fine. We can still do shit, and that's cool. But then, what I really like that he gets into is talking about this part. In certain tasks, women can have a little bit more freedom than a man, because we might attract less attention and fear in the enemy soldier. And I think about this as like when we talk about specifically like white women that are able to use their privilege to be somewhat more what is the word I'm looking for? When they like infiltrate certain areas and move through enemy areas without being as noticed because nobody pays attention to just this woman that's walking through here. And I think that's really cool. I probably am not the best person from that because right wingers take one look at me and know I I cannot blend in with them. But there are other women in our group even that I think could very well blend in and do that, which is pretty cool. And then he's talking about women wearing things that you can like hide stuff in their clothing. So like a big flowy dress or like a long skirt, you don't know what she's got hiding in there. And things like weapons that can be disassembled and reassembled can be like hidden in clothing. And I think that's a very just cool thing to think about. Um, he also talks about the importance of women as teachers, right? As spreading the propaganda, as teaching the revolutionary theory, and not just to the common man, but to the soldiers as well. Like I think that whenever we do get to a point like this, we are going to have so many people that are angry and ready to fight, but don't understand what the end goal is. And obviously anybody can be a teacher. But I think a lot of times when we talk about revolution, especially like online, you get the LARPers, the people that are like, I can't wait to fucking shoot cops. And then you get the people that are like, I understand why it's important, but I really don't like violence. And I'm like, you don't have, not, most people won't be soldiers. And I think it's hard for people to realize that growing food is revolutionary. Reading books and sharing what's in them is revolutionary. Helping distribute fucking socks to people is revolutionary. Like, you can be a revolutionary without ever picking up a weapon. And I think it's very important for us to really make sure that people do understand that and that there is a role for everyone and that you don't have to be a sharpshooter or the biggest, strongest man or like ready to fist fight Nazis like me. There is a role for everyone. And then the last thing I think that he talks about with women is, the historical way that women have been used in wars, like as nurses, right? As medical professionals. And again, anybody can do this job. But nursing is still a very woman dominated field. And so recruiting people like that into our movement is also very important because unfortunately injuries do occur. And even if we're not talking like fighting injuries, like people roll their ankles, like people get hurt, like our bodies are quite fallible. And so having people with you that can administer even just like like what the street medics do, right? Like at protests, like make sure people are hydrated and look out for signs of dehydration, or if somebody falls and scrapes their knee, like little things like that that really anybody can help with is just as important as the person that's pulling the trigger.
It's another one of the nonviolent ways to help, like you were just talking about. You don't have to pick
Yes.
up the gun and start shooting, but go help the person that may have been involved in that. Be
Mm-hmm.
an assistance to that. You made some amazing points. You know, as you were talking about kind of using the femininity in certain ways to get into places and infiltrate.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I think about this in a way. So I'm very, I like a lot of left leaning people are very progressive. I want a society where there's more equality for everyone. We're a lot less gender divided. But as a materialist, I also understand how people think and how people act. And
Mm-hmm.
if this is the way people are, and we can use that to their disadvantage, we need to.
Mm-hmm.
Do I want women to be able to be like Bugs Bunny in a dress and sneak through the enemy lines? Of course not. I don't want that to be the case. That's a terrible, terrible reality to live in. But is it the reality we live in? Sometimes.
Oh my god. First of all, if you're comparing it to Bugs Bunny in a dress, that's technically drag. So you could do that role as well.
I more
With
meant
that
the
beard and
sneaky part of
all.
it, but yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But
No,
yeah,
that is, yeah, Bugs Bunny in a dress. I love that. But yeah, like using, again, yeah, it's a very outdated way of thinking, but like, we live in a fucking sexist society. So like, yeah, if your feminine wiles can like get you past enemy lines to collect intelligence or whatever, yeah, yeah, do that. Do that.
I spent all weekend in a house where there was nothing but Fox News on, and let me tell you
Oh god,
something, this
yeah.
shit will still work, people. This shit will still work. If
Did you
you put
seduce your
an attractive
father-in-law?
woman, no, but if you put an attractive woman in a tight enough outfit and you walk them through the right guys, that
Uh-huh.
shit will still work because these guys aren't predators.
I mean, there's a reason why all the Fox News hosts look like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a it's
Because
it's a kind of a
they've all
gross
got stock in
stereotype,
hairspray
but
and yeah,
it's because they have
they've all
stock
got
in hairspray and Botox.
bronzer and whatever. Anyway,
Ooh.
but no, I really, yeah, the and kind of still talking about this. It's almost kind of like if you think the way judo works, right? Like using the momentum of your enemy to win. Like
Okay.
you're using the enemy's supposed alphaness against
Mm.
them. They think
Mm-hmm.
they're these hot shots that are gonna pick up these ladies. Well, you know what? Judo flip that motherfucker and show them what you're really about. Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Section 4.
Anything else about women? No, we're going on to medical
We're done.
problems.
We're done with the women here.
Done
Number
with
4
these women.
is medical problems.
We kind
So
of touched
yeah,
upon this in section 2, right?
yes, yeah. But this is also talking about how like we might not have access to the things we normally think about. Like you might not be able to just go to the county hospital because of all this shit that's happening, or because maybe Israel bombed your hospital. I don't know. Um but this is why
That's
we have
so unlikely.
that would never happen. So that's why it's important again to have these like medical professionals, or at least people that have basic knowledge of like first aid and stuff along with you in your guerrilla band.
Yeah, this is also where Che talks about. I kind of teased this earlier. The three stages of
Mm-hmm.
your guerrilla war, and this talks mainly about like the setup of these guerrilla bands, and as they become larger armies and expand territories and supplies and people that can do certain tasks, just
Mm-hmm.
as they grow. You start in a nomadic or basic stage. This is where you might have. Uh, somebody with some nursing experience who understands how to break a fever, dress a wound, stop bleeding, things that are critical, but they're not curing disease. Then it goes semi-nomadic, which is more of that intermediate stage, which just think more advanced. There's medicines now and people who understand those medicines. Maybe somebody who knows how to reset a broken bone. These are the types of things that a semi-nomadic stage would see. And
Mm-hmm.
then finally, the final stage, the fully safe zone, if you will, could even establish something like a true hospital, where you've got doctors, nurses, surgeons, machinery, tools that you would have in any hospital.
Mm-hmm.
This is further down the road as you've hopefully grown your guerrilla army, excuse me, and hopefully you're winning the war.
Yes. Or, it's not even talking about like building like a tent hospital, but like maybe if I'm even short of like quote unquote taking over a hospital, but like if the people that work there are sympathetic to the cause, then essentially you now have this hospital in your repertoire or whatever.
Did you see the video recently of the two ladies from Australia talking about what
Yes,
they've
yes, I
been
did.
dealing with? Like that's the kind of shit that like a hopefully
Ugh,
more advanced zone that's unfortunately still under attack, but able to
yeah.
keep that level of medical care for people.
Hmm.
That's a little more than a semi-nomadic guerrilla army still, and I hope they just stay at least there, if not grow.
Ugh, that video was hard.
Yeah.
All
Um.
right, are we moving
Yeah,
on?
that's all I got on that. Yeah,
All right,
that's a
so we're
pretty
moving
quick
on
section.
from the gorillas to the Beastie Boys. Section 5 is titled Sabotage. I am so old.
I did not just learn how to play that on bass last night.
Shit, that's
Anyway,
awesome.
what a coincidence. Um, so yeah, this again, this is another one of the shorter sections for me, but we've talked about sabotage quite a bit. This kind of just breaks down two types of sabotage, a little more specific for people to understand. The
Mm-hmm.
first is local,
Mm-hmm.
and local sabotage is really targeting spaces that are going to actually impact the enemy. Basically understanding the difference between terrorism and sabotage, which we've talked about a little bit here
Yes,
throughout the
there's a
book.
quote,
But
but I'd
go
like
ahead.
to read really quick about that. Sabotage has nothing to do with terrorism. Terrorism and personal assaults are entirely different tactics. We sincerely believe that terrorism is of negative value, that it by no means produces the desired effects, that it in turn can wait, I read that wrong. That it can turn a people against a revolutionary movement, and that can bring a loss of lives to its agents out of proportion to what it produces. And whenever we talk about things like this, I think of that stupid whatever her fucking name is, that annoying liberal account that's like, why don't I just blow up a Walmart? And I'm like, literally nobody advocates for that because that would just kill innocent people. Like,
And
that
waste
is
supplies
terrorism.
that could be used.
Right,
Like,
we
yeah,
need to redistribute everything in that Walmart. So that is the difference between terrorism would be blowing up the Walmart. Sabotage would be like shutting down a bridge so that the enemy can't get to you, or that you cross it and then they can't retreat or something like that. So
right.
sabotage
Shutting down
is,
the power in a certain area.
yes. So sabotage is more like that, like industrial things, physical things that maybe the enemy wants to use. We take those things out of commission. Terrorism literally just is like killing innocent people. Nobody advocates for that.
And another thing that breaks down local is literally like on the enemy lines,
Mhm.
sabotaging the enemy in combat. Right? Think about
Yes.
if there's a tent that's got supplies, they're going to go sabotage that tent and hopefully steal some supplies.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they've got comms that they're communicating back to a central command. It's your job to go sabotage those comms.
Mm-hmm.
On the national level, you're looking for, I'll go big. How do I take out a satellite?
Yeah.
That's national sabotage.
Yeah.
How do I take down a
Shutting
power
down.
plant that's
Yeah.
supplying?
Banking networks. Big time
That's
stuff.
national.
Yeah. Operation Mayhem. Is that what that is? Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
That's
Follow Tyler
sabotage.
Durden. Exactly. Yeah, that's a
I
great. I
am
would
just
love
gonna.
to see that happen.
I'm gonna keep making the oldest references possible.
Look, 1999 wasn't that long ago, and I will fight that to the death.
26 years ago.
God damn it. So yeah, another line here that I just caught my eye that I love to talk about. Railroads should also be destroyed, as should
Mm.
roads and culverts. Yeah, so basically, if there's something that the enemy is probably using more efficiently than you can, destroy
Mm-hmm.
that shit. You know, the
Mm-hmm.
railroad's great, but if you don't have access to trains and you can't use them to move supplies, then why should they be able to?
Exactly. He talks about bridges here as well. Bridges can be attacked with dynamite, but if there's no dynamite, you can destroy them with a fucking blowtorch. Like,
Yep.
or
Oh,
if
I
you're in
love the videos
America,
we
they're gonna
watch.
fall anyway.
Think about the
Right?
videos
Like,
of like Hamas running up to tanks and just putting like a bomb in there and just run it off. Like, get
well,
that's
what they put on
sabotage.
it, they put like a mortar on it and then run off and then shoot the mortar. Which is so
Brilliant.
cool. It really is
Brilliant.
brilliant. Yeah.
That's sabotage.
That's sabotage.
Uh, all right. Want to move on to part six?
Look, I can't stand it. I know you planned it.
I'm not going to do it.
I'm
I'm not.
gonna set it
I've been sitting
straight this
straight. All right.
Watergate.
Oh no. Okay.
Number six
War
is
industry.
War Industry, which is a
Sounds like
great
a Slayer title.
title.
It's like a
Or
Slayer
it
song,
just it
isn't it?
sounds like Raytheon, War Industry.
That made it sad.
That did.
All
Sorry.
right.
Well, it's a
So
Slayer song.
exactly. So this goes into a lot of detail of things, but I broke it down into just bullet points of the kind of I don't want to say topics, but like the bits of industry that they were involved in Cuba and the reasons they found them important. And some of these can absolutely still transfer over. First of all is shoes, shoes, shoes. We've talked about it over and over again. Make your fucking shoes. Repair your shoes. Shoes. Shoes are a war industry. Leather shoes. Have I said it
Leathers.
enough? Okay.
Shoes.
Next up, shoes. Next
Shoes.
up, you should have an armory. If you can take weapons as you've been advised to throughout this book, if you can pick up your fallen enemies' weapons and keep picking up ammo and supplies like that, you should
Mm-hmm.
start
Mm-hmm.
developing an armory. That should be part of your war industry. Have a few locations where you've got centralized weapons that can be dispersed amongst your army.
Mm.
Then we've got iron and tin. And I'm going to open up our
Yes.
book here and just talk a little more about the importance of iron and tin. These are things that could be used for simple things like canteens. You can use iron and whatnot for communication supplies, how to build equipment. All of these things are usually parts of other wholes. And if you're not able to steal already built and manufactured things, these are things you might need.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then communications. If there are lines of communication that you can either take over or develop yourself, it's important to develop those and really maintain and even grow your lines of communication as you grow your war industries, which sounds wrong, but it's important.
Yes.
And finally, like we talked about earlier, salt. Salt is critical. Salt is going to make sure that you have a actually well-fed militia. So make sure your salt supply is strong and keep that food fresh.
Keep that food fresh isn't the right word. Preserved though.
Preserve.
Safe.
Fair.
Jerky
Um,
that beef.
fresh-ish. Um,
Look,
I'd say
edible
fresh.
is really.
That's it. Healthy-ish. But yeah, it talks about meat being conserved in the form of jerkies. It talks about how many lives, how that could save lives. And like you
Mm-hmm.
said, it talks about the sea being a great source of that salt, if you so have that option, like they did
If
in
you're not
Cuba.
landlocked. Yeah. All
Yeah,
right.
I mean, we got the Gulf.
Yeah, Houston has access. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, number 7 is propaganda. And you and I know this, but the word propaganda has such a negative connotation in our society. And again, that's purposeful. But propaganda does not it's not a negative term. It literally just means like sharing information, and oftentimes, at least when we are doing it as Marxists, it's counter to the popular narrative, and so that's why it gets that negative connotation attached to it. But essentially, propaganda also means education, right? And that it goes along with agitation as well. So propaganda should convey an idea, right? But also like information, right? Like, what are we doing? Why are we doing it? Why it matters? Why you should care? Why you should either join us or just stay the fuck out of the way, right? And so it can be a lot of things, whether we're talking about full on like newspapers or like wheat pasting. We talk a lot about stickers in our group, making stickers, and we've done some wheat pasting and stuff. A workers' newspaper that just kind of not in the Trotsky sense, I guess. Although that is what they do. I mean, that's what the Trots do. And I think they would probably be more effective if they gave out their information rather than always try to sell it. And I know that groups need to make money. I got in an argument with the Trot in Chicago about that. And I was like, I would actually like to read this. Like, I don't know a lot about the Trotskyists, and I would read this if you weren't demanding that I pay you for it. Why won't you just give out your information for free? What the fuck is your deal, man? But anyway, that's my little Trot rant. Essentially, we're just trying to let people know what's going on, let people know maybe this organization is in your area. And really, we just want to let the people know what's going on, right? Why we're here? Why are we fighting the police? In case you didn't know.
And I mean, even if you think about it, I'll put it in an American perspective for folks to kind of understand if they can't already. Propaganda is what your television is doing every day to you. It
Yes.
exists already. It's not
Yes.
something mystical that only communists and socialists have and use. It's
Right.
not evil all the time. It's a tool, and how it's used determines how it's perceived. Um, but ultimately, here at least in the United States, I would say it's how the ruling class communicates what it wants the underclass to believe and follow. Now
Mm-hmm.
that is negative, but that is not the only way to use propaganda. If you look at places like China, you look at places like Vietnam, you look at places that are at least socialist leaning and or left leaning and honest enough with their people that they communicate with them in different ways, televised, print, take your pick. But it's just a way to communicate to the people what's being done on their behalf, hopefully, rather than to them.
Yeah, that's very well said. Um,
Thanks.
it's education.
Yep, that's
Yeah.
it. It's a way to keep everybody in the same page.
Yeah, and
I think about it.
we go ahead.
Go ahead.
No,
No,
you.
no, because I was about to move on. So please, you need to keep
I
going.
was just saying, we give out our little pamphlets when we do our mutual aid work, right? Explaining, well, essentially, our pamphlet is titled "What is Communism?" and it's a very short. I think a lot of the problem with the left in general is that we read all these books and with this flowery language, and we use words like proletariat and bourgeoisie, fucking French words and shit, and it's off-putting to like regular ass people. So the ability to simplify the language, and understanding that like a majority of Americans can't really read past like a sixth grade level, so trying to keep our information at like a sixth grade level is important, like, and the ability to do that is so vital to the movement because we don't want to come off as a bunch of like intellectual assholes right, like we are of the working class. And just because I've read some books with big words doesn't make me better than you, right? And so the ability to explain, because working people already know that like they're getting the shit end, right? And so just being able to take that innate knowledge that they have and put it into words and put it into a pathway towards liberation is so valuable. So yeah, like the two main flyers that we have are the "What is Communism?" We also have that one in Spanish, and then we have a flyer about like what to do if ICE comes into your like neighborhood or whatever. And that has pictures. It literally has like drawings on it, which again is very helpful because what if you don't speak Spanish but you come across a Spanish flyer, but there's pictures on it that kind of help you understand like how to protect your community. So stuff like that is absolutely vital, and having someone with you that has the ability to create these things.
Yeah, you should really get those in PDF and attach those to the podcast because they're really cool resources that we have.
Pretty sure I do have that. Good idea.
Well, we can make that happen.
We can.
But yeah, I was going to use this to segue into intelligence, our next subchapter here, subchapter 8. I think just like propaganda, I think terms like ignorance are used the wrong way in a lot of senses.
Mm-hmm.
Not everyone knows everything.
Mm-hmm.
Being ignorant is only a negative to me if you want to remain ignorant. If
That
your
part.
desire is ignorance, you're
Mm-hmm.
doing it wrong. If
Mm-hmm.
you acknowledge your ignorance and expand your knowledge because you've acknowledged it, then ignorance
Mm-hmm.
has now been used for good.
I love that.
I take my ignorance, I look at my ignorance as a gift. Every time I
Mm-hmm.
discover something I don't understand, I now have an opportunity to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And Che really just nails home here that knowledge, not to be cliche, but knowledge is power.
Mm.
Keep information flowing and
Mm-hmm.
make sure that it's legitimate. Vet your sources, vet the information. Don't lie
Mm.
to people. I'll bring up a not to go on a tangent, but this current situation with this new political shooter, who I'm not going to even name the douchebag that went down because enough people are talking about him this week. Um, but you look at what they did with him, and you look at what they did with the Luigi situation, and they were in
Mm-hmm.
a rush to find somebody, and all of a sudden there's all of this information that everybody is talking about, and it's floating around, and it's a mess, and 80% of it turns out to be bullshit. Both of
Mm-hmm.
those cases are being expanded because it turns out they probably rushed just because it's not justice, it's just trying to shut the people up. When they come out and say, we got them, most of America forgot what happened. That's not information. That is not intelligence. It is important that the information flows, but that the information flowing is legitimate before we do
Yes.
something with it.
Yes. I also think what he's talking about here is like collecting intelligence on the enemy, like some spy type ideas. Because he again talks about how women specifically um can infiltrate, right, and like flirt with the enemy to get information out of them or whatever. Is the other side of that. Like collecting intelligence, knowing where the enemy is going to be, and like cutting them off on their way there or whatever. Also,
Absolutely. Yeah, I kind of jumped ahead. Like what you're talking about is the collection, which is
yeah,
step one. And then step
yeah,
two is vetting and keeping it
yeah.
flowing and making sure that you do something with it only once you're sure it was real. Because
Mm-hmm.
while that information is being collected, you have to know who your source was. You have to know the circumstance that it was taken under. Think about, the Guantanamo Bay stuff where they were torturing people and getting so much false information because those
Right.
people were just desperate to stop the pain. If
Just
you're getting
stop. Yeah.
information from someone who if you're getting information from someone who you know is probably coercive and doing shit like that, you need to know before you action on it where it came from and how it was gained. I think that's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of what's being talked about here.
Yeah. Yeah. And cops lie. Don't forget that. Like,
All the time.
and aside from
Yeah.
yeah, aside from in like a revolutionary situation, if you're ever taken in by the police for questioning, one, shut the fuck up, um, and two, they are allowed to lie to you about evidence they have about your friend rolling over. Like they will straight up just lie to you, and they're allowed to do that to make you confess. So back to step one: shut the fuck up.
Yeah. And one last nice step one and step two and step three. Shut the fuck up. But one last thing on intelligence that Shay talks about, and it's kind of what you were talking about of the gathering of information and how, especially in a lot of cases, women can get into circles that some might not be able to. It's also training people and understanding how, once you're in those circles, to do it yourself and sow disinformation into the enemy.
Ooh.
If you're
Mm-hmm.
in there and they're listening to you, how do you get them to believe something about your army that's not true to
Mm-hmm.
your
Mm-hmm.
advantage?
He calls them sowers of fear. That's cool.
Sowers of fear. I love that.
Sowers of fear.
Um,
All
and
right.
in order
Number
to get
9.
there,
Oh,
we're going to
sorry.
need training and indoctrination. No, no, no.
Number 9, training and indoctrination. I like how this is laid out because these things are all not exactly similar, but they flow together, right? Like you need all of these things. Um. So yeah,
Yeah.
training. Oh, go ahead.
So what I've got here is that only after a large liberated area is established can a school be developed, right? So this
Mm-hmm.
is important to understand. You're going to start small. The guerrilla army, and this is talked about earlier in the book. I love that, like you said, a lot of this is touched upon, but then expanded. In the beginning, the soldiers that are fighting are probably already pretty well educated. They understand what they're fighting for. They understand how they're going to do it, et cetera, et cetera. As you grow, as you expand these liberated areas, you can then establish schools, because as you're bringing in, the peasantry or just the people that weren't involved in the fight, or a younger generation who doesn't even know how the fighting started if it's a prolonged war.
Right.
You need to be teaching them, and to do that you need to develop some sort of school in order to educate. And let's talk more about words, right? Another word
Mm-hmm.
that's really used negatively when it can be used in either direction is indoctrination.
Yes.
Let's talk about negative indoctrination.
Mm.
Most churches
I knew
use
you were going to start there.
indoctrination to bring people into their fold and control them as early as possible to believe what they want them to believe and do what they want them to do.
And it's fear based. It's this
However,
fear of hell, fear of suffering, fear of not seeing your loved ones again. Like so much of the indoctrination that we get under capitalism and under like religious oppression is extremely fear based. So we want to not do that.
it's a powerful tool. It's a
Yes.
powerful tool, right?
Yes.
It's similar to think about parenting. It's
Mm.
easy to scare your kid by beating the shit out of them. But if
Mm-hmm.
you're a good parent, you'll learn how to communicate with your kids without your fists, and you'll probably do a better job. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you can indoctrinate
Probably.
people with truth.
Mm.
You can use the truth to indoctrinate people. It doesn't have to be manipulation and lies.
Yes.
Indoctrination of the truth is simply means that as early as possible, we are sharing these truths with these people.
Mm-hmm.
This is where I could hear a liberal argument come right away. Well, don't these religious people think they're doing that too? Some of the believers might believe that's what's happening from above. But let's
Mm.
not kid ourselves. The leaders of these groups do not have good intents.
Mm. Mm-hmm. And I would even argue, like, not all like religious sects are mean and manipulative like that, right? Like there is
Not at
like
all.
liberation theology. I would say somebody like Martin Luther King Jr. for like an obvious example, who was like a Baptist preacher, but like understood these things, and like he wasn't preaching from like a fear idea, but it was more from a this is how we all make our lives better aspect, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even let's talk about politics. The right and left, the right and center of this country
Mm. Mm-hmm.
indoctrinate the youth to be a part of their club, and by that I mean to do their bidding while the club expands and grows.
Mm-hmm.
This type of indoctrination, again, will be compared to us, revolutionaries, once we attempt to overthrow this with truth. The
Mm.
argument will be, well, why is your truth more truthy than our truth? Well, all you can do as a revolutionary is tell the fucking truth and know in your heart that you're doing it.
Yes.
Because we could circulate this argument all fucking day.
Mm-hmm.
The truth will fucking set you free.
Mm-hmm.
Be the best version of yourself. That's it. I
You're
can't
such a
prove any other
nerd. I
fucking
love
way
it.
to you.
Yeah.
I can't. I could spend weeks begging you to believe me. The only way I'm going to get you to trust me is by doing the thing.
Doing the thing. And yeah, standing by what you say you believe in. He also talks about like physical training. right? Having this ability to carry a pack, to hike, to walk long distances. Obviously, a soldier has to have a certain standard of physical fitness. And before people jump on me about saying that that's ableist, it's not. There are just certain things physically that some people need to be able to do to have a certain role. Now, does that mean that someone of a different ability can't be a vital part of the revolution? Obviously not, right? Like I said earlier, we need teachers, we need people to grow food, we need people to make socks and fix shoes and stuff. So there is a role for everyone, but if you are going to be a soldier, you need to have a certain amount of strength and physical endurance. And he also talks about shooting skills. I think that's pretty obvious. So becoming a better shot, whatever it's a rifle or a handgun, he kind of gets into some details about different types of bullets and stuff. But the best kind of bullet is the one you have the most right? The one that fits your weapon and that you have available to you. So, don't shit talk a 22 caliber because it can still do some damage. He talks about that a little bit as well.
Yeah, he talks a lot about just the I don't want to talk about what Shay talked about. I actually want to talk about what you just talked about and the ableist argument and people's concerns about that.
Mm-hmm.
I really think it's important to understand that, at least in my revolutionary dream, we're not just assigning people roles that currently exist because that's what we believe the world should look like. People are going to be able to step up and say, this is how I can contribute. And we as revolutionaries need to really embrace that and help that grow. And then those people can help others who might think that, oh, well, where's my place in the revolution? Well, be the example. And we as hopeful, the vanguard needs to be willing to embrace that and really promote it throughout.
I saw, I think it was a TikTok the other day, because I am definitely on Star Trek TikTok, that was talking about, like, something really, like, beautiful about the future that is envisioned across, like, multiple iterations of this show throughout decades, right? Is that disability isn't eliminated in this future. There's not like a eugenics type thing that just gets rid of any sort of disability or hides it, but that disability is fully accommodated for without question, and that people that have even like noticeable obvious disabilities aren't treated differently because of that. They have their role to play, whether you're on the Enterprise or whatever it is that you're doing. And it's just normal and fine whether they have to wear, some sort of visor or a funny suit or whatever it is. And that's treated in different ways as like different alien species that need to breathe a different type of air. That's accommodated for. And then literal, like LeVar Burton's character, right, was born blind, and so he gets to wear those funny glasses. And he's fully a part of the team. So that's something to think about too. That's a future worth fighting for. Yeah. Geordi is very important. He's a hopeless romantic, and we love him to death. He has the saddest romance stories. Geordi. We stand Geordi.
Well, Geordi and Worf are my two romantic, sad characters. But anyway, enough about that.
You start talking about Worf's romantic arc. I'm going to talk about it for a minute. Did you watch Picard? The newer show?
I have not.
Okay, in the third and final season of it is like the entire TNG cast. Like, they bring everybody back. It's fucking amazing. That show is so like, for nostalgia only, it's so well done. But like, the second season has a big Q thing, and it's the same people. It's really good. But Worf ends up, through all his like kids and drama and like wife's dying and everything, like, he becomes essentially like a Klingon monk, and he has fully white hair in it, and he is finally like the badass he was always like wanted to be. He's given a really fucking cool.
That's right. Worf deserves it.
Yes, he does.
Michael Dorn gets his flowers.
Michael Dorn supremacy, best of all time. Okay, last section.
All right, hey, we're at the tail end, and this is the tail end where I'm going to be brutally honest with you.
Oh, no.
I don't understand military strategy.
We knew that, Pete.
I didn't grow up watching war movies. I don't play video games where you move around enemy armies and learn how to strategize.
Do you play
But
chess?
if and when the time comes, I know how to play chess. Do I
Yeah, I mean
play it
that's a war
regularly enough to
game.
be good at it? No.
It's hard. It's
Sure,
very
that's
difficult.
using
Yeah.
strategy.
Yeah.
But this section, I really think, takes the time to break down the really general forms of
Mm.
organization that any guerrilla army needs to at least start with. Um, and that's great. But beyond that, I'll be honest with you, I really think that this is like chapter 0 of a really big other book that needs to be
Mm.
written and or read before
Mm-hmm.
you start organizing a guerrilla army. Um, but this is really cool. And Jay, I'm going to quote him here. This is not a model, but a description of one reality of how to organize or how the organization worked in one country where it proved possible to achieve triumph over an army that was fairly well organized and armed. Um, so he talks about, how many soldiers go into this unit and why. Which soldiers should be armed and which shouldn't. Who should be used for communications? Who should be used for this? Who should be used for that? And this is what they did in Cuba. And it
Mm-hmm.
worked for them. And that's awesome. This is not a guidebook. This
Mm-hmm.
is a memoir that will hopefully inspire you to go do your own thing. And that's all I have to say about Part 10 because I am a fucking Luddite when it comes to military strategy, but I think it's rad.
That was so beautifully said, though. But yeah,
Thanks.
I
I'm
mean,
a little bit of a poet over here today.
you are. It's really nice. He talks about like what to do if soldiers fuck up and like what punishment might look like. He talks about different zones of combat are going to require different types of offense and defense, right? And I think that's obvious as well, right? So it's really just it's like what Pete said. This is not a blueprint. Same as like the Russian Revolution is not a blueprint. We do not live in feudal Russia. Like, I'm sorry that
Oh,
we don't have a czar.
the weapons have changed.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the means of
It's
communication. And that's something that you know we're also our reading group is reading How to Blow Up a Pipeline by Andreas Malm. And that's a little more modern day, right? And it's more about the sabotage side of things and like I mean it is kind of about like guerrilla combat though. Like it's not necessarily as an organized army, but as specifically like environmental activists, right? Is kind of what that book's written about. But things to think about like I like joked earlier, like don't tweet your location, but like don't take your cell phone with you, and like so means of communication are very different now than when this or even that book was written. So like again, this is not a 1-to-1. We don't all have donkeys. It's gonna look a little different. But like, do you have an e-bike? Like, is that a modern donkey? Maybe in some situations it can be treated the same way. Um. So yeah, it's a good book. We didn't do
it's a really good book.
the appendices, did we?
No, the appendices, there's nothing really there. The epilogue is a little more. You could talk about but the epilogue is really more about kind of the aftermath of the
Mm-hmm.
World War, which I think is it's interesting, but
Mm-hmm.
not really what we talked about. At least in
Yeah,
the reading
fair.
group, we didn't really touch too much upon that. But yeah, I think this is a really cool way for people to understand what combat can look like in a
Mm-hmm.
revolution that's not scary.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think a lot of people are scared, and I think this is at least to me, this book could really help put people maybe a little more at ease, and
Mm-hmm.
that goes back to part 7. Good propaganda can do that.
I like your cover. Mine is cool. It feels very Kubert.
I love that. Oh my god, yeah, it is Kubricky, yeah, because the
Yeah.
the pin almost looks like an eyeball. It's
Right.
kind
It's
of
kind of
crazy.
clockwork. It's kind of clockwork orange. Yeah.
I
It's
like it a
fun.
lot.
Do you have any closing thoughts about literally anything? This book about Cuba,
About
about September 2025 in the U.S.
it's years are happening in weeks, as as per usual.
Decades,
So sit back
baby.
and look out for each other. Be
Yes.
there for your comrades. Be there for each other, and try to keep your head floating up. And I don't know, y'all. As I told Nasty here, this shirt is my friend's band. You should go check them out. They're fun. They're kind of garage rocky.
You should say
Female
the name of
led.
it because this is an audio format.
Sorry, I'm sitting here just pulling on my t-shirt. Tiny Specs. Tiny Specs is the name of the band. Austin's own.
Austin's own
Led by
Tiny.
two
And
fabulous ladies.
are they both your cousins?
No,
Are
no,
they
they're
your
just
cousins?
friends. These are
Oh,
just
they're
friends.
friends. Okay, that's cool. All right,
Yep,
that's your
but
plug.
they're
That's the
rad.
plug you want. Tiny Specs.
That's it. Yeah,
All
go check
right,
them out.
find the Patreon. It's called How the Red Was Won. Awesome. Thanks,
Send
Pete.
money.
Or to Red Help ATX. We also need money. We want to buy a food truck. Thank you. All right, bye. Cheers.